Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast Retro Life for You. My name is Chris Adams, host of the show. And with me, as always, even though his name tag says Eddie, he is really and truly Travis Rollins.
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween to
I'm
you as
Eddie because
well.
he's my favorite demon.
He's your favorite demon?
Yeah, he was
So
on
what?
the cover when I was growing up in the 80s. I always liked the Iron Maiden t-shirts and covers.
I tell you what, it is a night for demons.
It is.
Um, Being Halloween and all, it is the night of the demons, right? Or is that just the movie we're talking about this week?
It's both. It is the night when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest.
How was your weekend? How's your week? I should say. Since last week.
Rough. I ain't gonna lie, rough. I want to go back to cutting wood. I've
Uh,
been at work all weekend. I went into work today.
did you?
Yeah, 7 days a week this week, boy.
One of these
Rough.
days, we're gonna pressure you, and we're gonna be like, "What did you make today? What was so secret that you had to go in on a Sunday? What did you make, Travis? What did you
Yeah.
make?"
It wasn't that it was so secret, it's that the vendors messed it up, and now there's two vendors that got canned, and nobody else in the country wants to touch this part. So I'm it.
I used to ask my uncle all the time, who was in the Air Force, stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Vegas, right outside of Vegas, I guess.
Hmm.
I'd be like, "You're out there close to Area 51, aren't you?" He said, "Yeah, we're
Yeah.
close to that." I said, "Tell me about the aliens." He said, "If I did, I'd have to kill you. And
Yeah.
since we're related, I don't want to have to kill you."
It's always funny to me too. It's like people will be like, "Did you see all the tanks on the train? What
Yes,
all this military stuff? Why are all these helicopters flying around?" And I'm like, dude, you realize that the the place where the SEALs and the Marines and all the, like Paris Island is here. You realize that Fort Moultrie, Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, or no, Benning is in Alabama, in it. Uh, no, yeah, Benning, Bragg. I think Benning's close by, but we got Bragg. We got like, dude, there's so many daggone military bases
Fort Knox in
dotted between
Kentucky,
North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia. There's so much military here, dude.
Fort Campbell here where I'm at,
There you go. It's like, of
101st
course,
Airborne.
it's always around, dude. Yeah, it's funny.
It is funny, not to go too far off here, but we get people here in the local city web page for
Yeah.
Facebook, like a Facebook group for
Hmm.
this for the city. Did you see all those lights and the helicopters last night? What's going on? What's going on? And there'll be like
Or
15
flying at
people
night,
jumping on it, and
goofball.
15 people jumping on it, and finally somebody will come out and go, "Okay, you guys have lived here forever. You know that Fort Campbell runs night, whatever you call it, night runs for
Mhm.
practice and everything with the helicopters and things, and then it's nothing other than that. That's all
Right.
you're seeing. That's why the helicopters are coming through. It's the exact same helicopters you see in the daytime that you don't question going over at night."
Yeah, you have to when you do updates, mods, sustainment, depots. When you do things like this, they have to test the aircraft. So, like, there's a lookout where I work. You can't like you could drive up and take pictures and video all day long, but if I do it, I'll get fired, which is weird to me. But but anyway, there's a place where you can drive up. It's kind of up on a hill a little bit, and you can look across the base and watch planes take off and this and that. And there's private hangars and a private strip right there too on the same facility, so to speak, property. And dude, you can sit there, just pick a day of the week, and you can watch planes take off and land and take off and land and fly in big circles over and over and over and then take off. And I mean, it's routine stuff.
Well, look, I did ask somebody one day, and then I'll go ahead and drop this. They brought up the tanks on the trains being brought in on the flatbed things on the trains.
Yeah.
You see all those tanks and vehicles? I was
Hmm.
like, sure did. What do you think's going on, man? They starting martial law? And I said, no. I said, check this out. Oh wait, I look, make sure no one's looking. You know, I'm telling them, I'm looking all around.
Right.
I said, come here, come here. They come closer, and I said, you don't drive tanks on the interstate, dummy.
Right.
You got to transport them somehow, okay? They're
Yeah,
not
you're not toting a tank on a transfer truck.
they're not going to be flown overhead with helicopters and dropped into cities with parachutes on them and everything and taking over your town with martial law because somebody that we don't want to mention the name of because it will drive people crazy. Is
Well, not just that. Since that person. So over the last decade, we've been exiting a lot of areas.
mm,
One place we exited in a foul manner and left a bunch of stuff behind.
yeah,
We don't normally do that. We bring our equipment home.
right.
So a lot of that has been stuff coming back home and has to go somewhere to store it. And
Oh my gosh. One of these days we're going to have Retro Life for You Night of the what's a good title for it? Night of the
night of the stupid,
Conspiracies. Night of
night
the
of the
Conspiracy
night
Theories.
of the conspiracy theories. I like it. I'm in.
Starring Bubba J of the Trailer
Yeah.
Park C.
But now we're talking about Halloween.
Halloween. That's a good,
Halloween.
that is a
So
good.
sad that the voice of Oogie Boogie is gone this year. This year we lost another one. We lost let me I want to do this. I want to do this in a manner that's respectful. So and I cannot remember his name. Let me see here. Yeah, Ken Page, the voice of Oogie Boogie, passed this year. Which,
What's the Oogie Boogie?
yeah.
Who is Oogie Boogie?
What? Nightmare Before Christmas.
I never watched Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, okay. Well,
Now
dang, we should have picked that one.
that
That's
is
gonna be on our Christmas list then.
that
Y'all,
is
anybody listening, when we take the poll for Christmas movies, you gotta put in Die Hard and Nightmare Before Christmas. And I guess we may do the Gremlins.
if they put Nightmare Before Christmas in, they're going to put in like a million times to get me to agree to that one because that has got to be. I'm not into animation like that. It's just not.
Okay, but you've seen Fern Gully.
If I did, I was a kid. I don't know.
Okay, so Oogie Boogie is basically a cloud from like the way he sounds to put you in the mind of it. If you've ever seen Fern Gully, he sounds like the toxic cloud from Fern Gully, and which was Tim Curry. So imagine Tim Curry singing or being a bad guy, and it was Kim Page. Close.
Okay,
So anyway, rest in peace, Kim
I've
Page.
not seen it
Thank you for
regardless.
Oogie Boogie.
Well, today, however, we're doing Night of the Demons, and just to give you a quick rundown. Night of the Demons is a cult classic horror film directed by Kevin Tenney. Now, I'm gonna do what I did last week. I don't know who Kevin Tenney is. You might know who he is from something else. You knew the one last week who done something different.
Nope,
I
I'm not. Harry and the Hendersons. That's all I know.
So, and just to give you a basic rundown, I guess, of what
Maybe
he is.
not even Harry and the Hendersons. He did something with Bigfoot, but it looked
Okay,
like Harry and the Hendersons. Hang on, I'm looking at him right now. I thought it was Harry and the Hendersons.
okay, I was going to pull him up for you and have him up in front of you. So if you got it up, I'll let you look it up.
It was a Bigfoot movie, but the Bigfoot in the movie looked just like Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. It's almost like they used the same daggum makeup.
Hey, they might have.
So he's a horror guy. He did the original Witchboard, Night of the Demons, Cellar, Witch Trap, Peacemaker, which was I think that was an action movie. Witchboard 2, Pinocchio's Revenge, TikTok, Endangered Species, Brain Dead, and I guess his last movie was the Bigfoot movie.
Okay, so he's done a lot of. So basically, he's done a lot of horror movies,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all probably as campy and cheesy as this one. But
Absolutely.
so back to what I said. Cult
Maybe not as
classic
bad as
horror.
this one.
Well, let's not ruin it for everybody up front. Let's let them make their decision at the end. We'll see what they think about it.
Yeah, and when I say bad, I don't mean this is a bad movie. I meant like the campy and cheese is it's at the height of the 80s camp and cheese.
Yeah, it's from 1988. But so anyway, like I said, 1988 cult classic horror film directed by Kevin Tenney. The Halloween staple combines 80s camp with supernatural scares and gore, delivering a story that's both spooky and tongue in cheek. Basically, the movie follows a group of teenagers who on Halloween night decide to throw a party at the Hall House, which is an abandoned mortuary rumored to be haunted. The host is Angela, played by Amelia Kincaid. She has a dark fascination with the occult, which only adds to the eerie vibe of the location. As the night progresses, the group conducts a seance, accidentally unleashing a demonic spirit that possesses Angela, as well as um, what was the other girl's name that Linnea quickly played?
Suzanne.
Suzanne. So they get Suzanne first, and Suzanne passes it on to Angela. So after that, a battle for survival ensues. Each character faces gruesome fate as they try to escape the horrors inside of Hull House. So that's your basic rundown of the movie. It budgeted
It is.
$1.2 million estimated, but only grossed worldwide 3.1 well $3,109,904.
Heck yeah. That's
So
not well. That's I guess why it became the cult classic that it did because like I said earlier, it's like among horror fans, this is one of those like y'all can you even call yourself a horror fan? If you haven't seen it.
yeah,
So
this is one of
it's
the
along those
movies
lines.
that's of the movies of the '80s or horror movies that you would had to have seen if you were a horror fan. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like saying you didn't watch Nightmare on Elm Street, or you didn't watch Friday the 13th, or you didn't watch
For sure.
Halloween, or you didn't watch Hellraiser. You're not going to say you didn't see at least the first movie of Night of the Demons. It's got three movies, but the
Yeah,
first one you can't say you haven't
absolutely.
seen it.
Yeah, this one isn't nearly as obscure as something like Subspecies, which is
And,
also and that one is absolutely amazing. The entire series is just amazing. I think I've mentioned it on the show a time or two before, but Subspecies is man alive. If they had a budget, that would be that's one of the best vampire stories put on film ever.
Now, a lot of people ask me why do you well ask me about this particular movie, but about certain movies of the '80s we've brought up before, not making a lot worldwide, but are still popular movies
Hmm.
and cult classic types. They're like, why do you think it doesn't make a lot of movie to theater? Was it really that bad? Answer, in my opinion, is no. I think one of the things I've learned from talking to some of the people we've talked to in the past, Travis, is that the movie itself might not be bad. It may have been a limited run in the theaters for one.
Yeah,
It,
because
it
some movies don't last as long at the movie theater as others do. Some movies will be in a movie theater for 2 or 3 months, and then others will be
right,
in there for 2 or 3 weeks.
right, and they don't get like whereas one is slated to be like, let's say you've got a Arnold Schwarzenegger or a Sylvester Stallone from the '80s that's got four screens at each movie theater it's at.
Yeah,
This one might have had one screen, and
right, right.
it might have ran for 2 or 3 weeks. And one of
Hmm.
the others I just mentioned, Schwarzenegger or Stallone might have ran for 3 months, like you said, with
Yeah,
four movie screens going. They're going to make more money. So
that and when you get something like this, okay, they had $1 million budget. They had to do all the things that they did, and then included in that budget, I'm sure, is advertising. So
yeah,
they weren't able to pump it like they would have been something else. You may have went and seen a movie poster, and if you saw the movie poster to this thing, I'm sure a lot of people would have been like, "Oh, only the horror fans are going to go see this."
pretty much yes. And the effects are not super great, but they're not lousy either for what they've done with it and everything.
For the money that they had, yeah, for sure. And I always thought that the poster, which is the movie makeup, the poster is phenomenal. Like the still photos, and you'll catch a glimpse too of Angela sometimes when she's in her demon form. There's a couple of glimpses that you catch of her that are just absolutely phenomenal. But then I'm sure, with that kind of budget and what they were trying to do, they didn't have the time or the money to reapply and touch up and okay, we're going to put this makeup on and get as much done as we can today.
Right.
So
Of
throughout
the
the
scenes
day it
requiring her.
falls or you sweat or it gets wet, it smears, whatever.
Mhm. Right. Any scene that required her to be in makeup for the demon look, they may have filmed as many of those as they could that day to knock those out. Same thing for Linnea Quigley when she first started her bit, and
Absolutely.
and then the rest of them too when they got possessed at that point. So
I will say though, whatever prosthetic whatever prosthetic that Suzanne had on when she inserted a tube of lipstick into a certain area.
it's more of the northern region before you
Yes, yes,
got
it was in the
before
it was
you before you
yeah,
guys out there start getting ideas.
above the belly button for sure. But I remember the first time I saw this as a kid, it was like, oh dang. I'll never forget. We had just moved back from Aiken. We were living in a 200-year-old slave house, basically a barn. and mom wasn't there. And I used to love it when mom would come up to Greenville to stay with friends or family or whatever and leave me and dad at the house, because dad would take me to the video cavern, I think it was called Video Castle. It was the Video Castle in Gray Court. And that was our teeny tiny little video rental store. And he'd let me rent whatever the hell I wanted to. So that was my, I was coming, like I said, I got into scary movies while we lived in Aiken. So when I come back from Aiken, 12 to 13 was where I really went on a tear. I wasn't so scared of the dark and all that anymore. And I watched this and oh man, that scene right there creeped me out. And when I rewatched it last weekend, it was still like, oh, that just, what?
What do you think were some of the key themes to Night of the Demons that makes it such a great horror movie? I mean, there are certain things when it comes. We've talked about some of our past ones.
Mhm.
Certain things that were brought out in the movie that makes a movie memorable as far as horror goes. What do you think they did in this one, in your opinion?
I think that in this one, they put it in a realistic setting for one, because how many of us as older teenagers or early 20s, even mid teenagers, if you talk about me, have snuck in somewhere and partied, or field parties, or an abandoned, or went exploring into an abandoned building, or hospital or something like that. So we've been in that setting before. Anytime you're in that setting with a group of guys and girls, it's kind of about the same thing that was going on in this movie. The guys are trying to get hold of something, and the girls are like, "Yay!" And then it was so realistic. We're trying to creep each other out. We're telling scary stories. So these things kind of happen. So to me, it builds upon the imagination that we already have going into something like that. And then I think that with it being another I think it was one of the more well done um monster movies for the time. You know what I mean? Freddy, Jason, the big three aside, and Pumpkinhead aside. Pumpkinhead is one of the best too, but involving demons and creatures and stuff. It was just, I think it was good on that one.
Well, you kind of nailed down a couple of the three I'm looking at here. You talked about Teenage
Oh, really?
Rebellion. Yeah, Teenage Rebellion and Recklessness.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, mid-teens, older teens, young 20s, they see a place that's supposed to be, supposedly it's been haunted over all these years, but no one really
Oh
knows.
yeah, man, we
And
dare each
there's
other to
always
run in.
stories. Yeah, there's stories about them. I dare you to run in there and knock on the door. I dare you to open the door and run in and say something, and then
Yeah.
leave. Because there's no
What
one
town
living
does
there.
not
It's
have a?
abandoned.
Let me ask you this: what town have you ever been in that does not have a crybaby bridge?
Man, I don't know. I mean, there's always something where somebody's died somewhere. There's
Yeah.
the old house in town that's been abandoned for 30 years, but it's been kept up and everything at least. There's in Louisville, Kentucky. My ex is from had lived there for quite a while with her family, and her grandfather worked at the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and when it closed down, there was all kinds of rumors of course, still of hauntings going on there. To this day, there is, and they
Yeah.
give tours and everything, and all these different things you can go to today. But back then, when it wasn't open for tours, people, kids would sneak in there to see what was going on. You'd have people who were homeless living in there too,
Mhm.
as well. But I mean, people would sneak in to see what was going on.
Yeah, we had
Uh,
quite a few places like that around here. We had one we called the Devil's Castle. That's a whole story that I went into in my teens and 20s. I won't even get into that. We got a real famous one, Poinsett Bridge. Poinsett Bridge is an old stone bridge that's up around Campbell's Covered Bridge, and it's purported to be extremely haunted. We have something called Bleeding Rock. All of my dad, the generation before me, I've heard tons of stories about this one. But excuse me, I've never been able to go see it because it's deep on private property now. But what it is so around here, there's a lot of there's tons of mineral deposits around my area. As a matter of fact, the most valuable rubies ever found in the history of the world were found by fishermen just on the side of the river here. Uh, we got tons of gold, quartzes, like all kinds of
Um,
crazy stuff.
excuse me, not to interrupt you, but where's this fishing hole at? For I'm
I
asking
know,
for a
right?
friend. I'm asking for a
Yeah,
friend.
for reals. Yeah, you can look it up. It's the I think it's called the Starburst rubies. It's like 5 or 6, 7 rubies that he found. It's worth like $6 million. But
Yeah, really,
this
really, where's this fishing hole at?
for real,
I'll
seriously,
learn to
dude.
fish better if you tell me where it's at.
Right, right. But what bleeding rock is it's a it's the type of quartz that it is what they found out later. Um, you don't see it. It only looks like this on a full moon or a new moon, like when there's a lot of moonlight, and it's something about the kind of light that the moon reflects or puts off that makes this quartz react this way. And if you're standing in front of it, the rock, you have to stand in front of it facing due north or something. I don't remember, but it actually looks like blood as the moon goes by. It looks like blood running down the rock. It looks like the rock is actually bleeding.
Wow,
So, but
stories.
yeah,
We could have all kinds of fun talking about those one night.
oh yeah,
The other thing that we didn't really bring up, although you kind of touched on it a little bit, the practical effects. You know, the way their makeup and stuff looked and everything. So
yeah.
practical effects and gore in this movie. The gore part would be like when you got once again Linnea Quigley's character with Suzanne.
Hmm.
She doesn't want the guy. Apparently, they're
Don't look
initiating
at
some.
me.
Yeah, they're initiating some contact, right?
Yeah,
Initiating some contact, we'll say, is what they're doing. And she's looking down at the guy, and the guy's looking up at her, and she's like, don't look at me, you know, to stop, you know." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And then she's normal for a second, and then just like you did, what'd she
yeah.
say?
Don't look at me.
Pretty much, yes, which was freaky. And then she reaches down to grab. He grabs both of her hands to keep her from doing it, but she powers down on him and pushes his eyes out, or
Yep.
pushes her thumbs down in his eyes and gouges his eyes out.
Hmm.
Gore, to say the least. There's some
Yeah. Well,
gore.
that's like when old dude and the girl was in the coffin. Was it Helen? I think was in the coffin, and Stooge come running up on him.
Yeah, and just
Daggum.
he just went right for her and took her out just like that and started slamming the
Yeah.
coffin shut on him. Crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
that the demon stuff too, like you said, and the effects of the chase scenes, like the them running through there and then getting into the boiler room and all that, or not the boiler, the crematorium area,
right. There's
and tricking them and like she tricked like Suzanne tricked old dude.
mhm. It's something. Speaking of old dude, I want to touch on this real quick. So it's Halloween. Kids are gonna be scaring people, right? There's an older guy, an elderly man, coming home from the store. It looks like walking with a couple
Yeah,
of bags of groceries, and this one kid jumps in front of him, holds up a fake rat, and scares him to death. He falls down, drops his groceries. Kid laughs at him and takes off. Well, this man is so mad. You know, he's cursing at the kids. He takes off. A girl taps him on the shoulder. He's still mad. She wants to try to help him out, which ends up being one of the stars of the movie. It's
hmm.
Judy, and Judy's going to help him out. And he ends up calling her a really bad name and making her
G
mad.
G
And
G.
she runs off. You know, I don't want to help you anyway. You know,
Right.
do your Cary Grant again for us, Travis. Do that again. Do your Cary Grant for us.
Oh, G G G.
Judy.
G G G.
Um, sorry, Andy Griffith there for a second. We can't help ourselves sometimes. Um, so he's picking up on what looks like the apples and some razor blades at the same time. He goes, "The kids gonna get what's coming to them tonight."
All
Yeah,
right.
they are. You know. So I'm like, oh, poor kids up there trick or treating. This old man's gonna be giving out apples with razor blades in it. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't want to tell the next part. I just want to say when you watch this movie, because I have a good feeling people who listen to us, if they haven't seen these movies or if they ain't seen them in a while, I feel like they go back in behind us and they watch them again.
Heck yeah. You
So
got to.
when not if you go back, but when you go back and watch this
There
again,
you go.
remember what the old man does at the beginning, holding the razors and the apples and laughing about it, and make sure you watch the final scene of the movie.
No
Just
doubt.
just make sure you do that. Um, so we were talking to him beforehand on this, And it's not really funny. It's ironic. It's weird for other horror movies in the past that you've watched
Oh, we're going to
because
Roger.
when we're going to Roger, played by Alvin Alexis.
Yes.
He plays Roger, and Mr. Alvin Alexis is a young black guy in the movie,
Hmm.
and it's pretty well known and brought up, like even in Scary Movie where they make fun of things
Yeah, they make fun of it.
and stuff like it. They're like, the black guy never lasts. And he's always the first to die in the movie. The white
Yeah.
people are the stupid people that run to the horror. Oh, what's
Hmm.
that noise upstairs? Let's go see. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, what's
Yeah. The
all that?
white people run straight through to it.
What's all that clanking noise that sounds like sword fighting going on in the barn? Let's go see what's going on in there.
Yeah.
And the black guy's like, oh no, I'm leaving, I'm gone.
Now y'all
Which is
crazy.
which is similar to what happens here. He's one of the first couple to say, "Hey, I don't like how this feels here. I'm leaving. This is I don't care." They try to shame him into staying, calling him chicken and everything, but he ain't going. He's stupid, so
Yeah.
he wants to leave. And I think was Helen the one that wanted to leave with him.
Yeah. At first, him and Helen were they were running around. That was when they couldn't find the exit in the brick wall. The brick wall
Right,
went all the way around the house.
right. They're stuck in there
They
now.
found the
Now all
gate.
this is said. Now the demon's been released. They're stuck in the gate. There's no gate at all to be found. But they were the first two to leave at least. So you're always thinking because of how horror movies go, for whatever reason, the black guy was always the first to die in the movie. And
Hmm.
it's always like, why? Why is that? Well, in this movie, it just did not happen.
Didn't
It's
happen.
no, did not happen. We'll just, don't want to ruin anything, but let's just say that
Roger's the guy.
this
He's
young
that
man
guy.
survived. Okay, Roger survived. He defeated the odds, and he survived.
I loved it too, man. He,
Yes, because
he,
you're
he said,
cheering
"Y'all
for him
not
at
gonna
the end
get
of it.
me." He
No,
said
no,
when he said, "Y'all not gonna get me," and he went running and dude, I'm talking about dove head first through the window. Just,
yes. He's like, I'm getting out of here one way or the other. And then he checks himself out to make sure there's no cuts or anything. But
yeah,
it's like, I found myself cheering for this guy at the end of it, going, yeah, you find that way out. We need you to get out. Okay.
yeah.
And then
You've been
sure enough,
taking care of Judy all night. Well, Judy told him, you saved my life 3 times tonight already, Raj."
man, uh, the movie itself has some iconic, memorable scenes. One of them I'm gonna bring up real quick is the possession of Angela.
Uh-huh.
Now, Angela gets possessed after Suzanne does. Suzanne has
Which was strange to me too, because Angela was the one that was like Feruza Balk in The Craft. You know what I mean? Like she was the one that
yeah.
was already into all that stuff. She was the one
Well,
that said we're
no,
gonna summon a demon tonight. And
no, Angela was not Suzanne. She was
that's
the
what I'm
one
saying.
already into it. But you said Suzanne.
I, did I?
Suzanne's her friend, and she's with
Yeah.
her when they're getting the stuff, the
That's what
snacks
it's,
and everything.
well. What I
But
meant to say was it surprised me that Suzanne was the first to get it because Angela was the one that was into all of it, and she was the one
yes,
that was doing the summoning and everything.
right. And
So it
now,
surprised me
and
that
now,
Angela wasn't the first; that Suzanne
so
was.
so the real question is: was the summoning just a fun thing they were going to scare the people with, or did she really know what she was doing? And when she did this,
Right.
we
Yeah. No
don't we don't
doubt.
know because after the fact happens, she actually looks a little bit scared and says, this place is demonically possessed. This is
Yeah.
not a spirit thing or a ghost thing. This place is demonically it's possessed.
Right. Like she knew. Well, I wonder too. So when they did that and they looked in the mirror and she, well, see, or was it because remember she jumped on whoever it was? I forgot which one of the guys it was. She told him to chill out and take this seriously. This ain't something you play with.
Right.
So maybe he messed it up and
Well, I
brought
don't
the.
know, but it's true. That could be what happened. And then when he stopped, the one girl who died first saw herself smashing into that mirror, herself dead with that demon in the background. She could see the demon's head.
Yeah. Which the demon in the background in the mirror, I think, was probably the best pre CGI film FX that they did in the movie. That
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Yep. And now back to the memorable scenes. The possession of Angela. You got Suzanne walks over to her, plants a big old kiss on her, and you got the dude in the background. The hog nose. What was his name again?
Oh, Stooge.
Stooge. The Stooge is like, all right,
Yeah.
But then when she stops and she's not kissing her any longer, you can start seeing the possession getting into Angela. So
Mm-hmm.
you got
Was
Suzanne
that was the
leaving.
scene where she was dancing in front of the fireplace?
Well, that's what I'm building to.
Leading up
Yes,
to it.
That's what I'm leading
Yeah.
up to. Because the other two leave. Stooge follows off after Suzanne, and Angela starts just this dance routine right there. Now,
Yeah.
the dance routine itself, I was looking up earlier when I was looking up trivia stuff for it. It says here Amelia Kincaid, which is Angela, she choreographed her own dance routine. She's also a
Wow.
dancer outside of actress.
Okay.
One thing about Amelia Kincaid and dance routines, she was also in Breaking Two Electric Boogaloo as one of the dancing nurses in the hospital.
No
When Turbo,
way.
when Turbo's in the hospital, she's one of the nurses that dances.
That's cool.
So there's a little tie-in where we always bring in something odd, that what they've been in and that we've seen a million times.
Hmm.
So I thought that was kind of cool that it happened.
That is
Um,
really cool.
Linnea
She was a
Quigley,
dancer in the Roadhouse movie with Patrick Swayze.
yes.
Wow.
Linnea Quigley played Suzanne. The and special effects artist Steve Johnson met when she came in to get the mold for her fake breast done. They were later on married.
Oh wow.
Um, so I guess we gave away where the lipstick is going. By talking about the mold for the fake breast.
Right.
My gosh. It said produced for a modest 1.2 million. The film, which I mentioned earlier, racked up outrageously large grosses in its limited release. Remember, I said limited releases. I
Yep.
brought that up. So
Yep.
limited release, debuting in Detroit. It hit New York City at Thanksgiving, and it earned 3.109 million, holding screens until the end of the year.
Yeah. Most
So,
of these movies too that had the unrated or the U rating, which
mhm,
is what it released with. Uh, most movies that do that, that was kind of like, I think a U rating was kind of like pre NC-17.
yeah,
Uh, so if it had a U rating, especially as a young boy, it was like, "Ooh, we're going to get this one. We're going to see something in this one." So, but at the time, most U ratings were, if I recollect correctly, um, limited releases or short runs in theaters and stuff.
yeah. Yeah. So the longest run it pretty much had was about a month and a week, maybe 5 weeks total.
Yeah,
I don't know how many screens it was on, but this is the time frame in '88 where we did have multiplexes.
yeah,
So there was they could have been like your 10 screen, 12 screen multiplex, and four of them went to a movie, and one went to this, and one went to that,
hmm
and two went to this, or whatever. So we don't know how many it had. We don't know how many weeks it actually did real well. I'm surprised a movie like that, a horror movie like that,
hmm
lasted from Thanksgiving to Christmas at the
yeah,
theater. It's not really because you're thinking beforehand with Halloween, maybe Halloween through Thanksgiving
yeah.
might be something believable. A little more. I mean, not that they're lying. It's true, but I
Well, that's
mean,
another thing too. That's how you know that I feel like that's one of the calling cards of a cult classic, or if you made it as a cult classic, is like 10 years later they're doing it in the special double features with like excuse me, with like Rocky Horror Picture Show or Faces of Death or stuff like that, like the midnight double feature that we used to have back in the 90s.
Joe Bob Briggs,
Joe Bob Briggs.
USA late night USA network.
Yeah, there you go.
Back to the back to the memorable things. It says the lipstick scene. Linnea Quigley's character Suzanne gives one of the most bizarre performances, which includes a notorious scene involving a tube of lipstick.
It's disturbing. I'm not
It's
kidding. It's
it is
disturbing.
disturbing. You won't forget it as part of being part of the movie. You'll probably talk
Yeah,
about it for a
I
little
think
bit.
that's one of the things that catapulted it as well. It's like what the like. There's very few times I see something disturbing that's not involving, you know, in scary movie and horror movies. If it's not involving the death of a child or something, then usually it don't bother me too bad. But that one, even rewatching it, knowing it was coming, was like, oh man.
Yep. And then, of course, you got the final escape. The survivors' race to flee Hull House is tense, especially with dawn approaching and the demonic spirits growing more aggressive. The theory was at first we'll stay in this room until daylight, and then it'll be over with because Halloween's done with. They can't do anything else. Then, as it
Yeah.
turns out, that's not the case with that house. You have to cross over where this underwater creek is. They talked about earlier in the film.
Yes. They can't cross. The
Apparently,
spirits can't cross over it. That's why they built the wall on it to mark it.
right. So Um, so the final escape of who all survives, and we all know one of them. We won't mention the others.
Mhm.
Um, but was a very fun part to end of it. There, it started getting a little bit more fun toward the end. You see the chase going on, and you're wondering who's going to catch it from who. Uh,
Right.
the room they get stuck in was the crematorium, and you're thinking to myself, I was thinking to myself, I haven't seen it since I first watched it in
Yeah.
'88. Okay, so I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going to try and I can't remember. Do they try to get out through the oven area? Is there a way out on the other end? Because I can see someone trying to get in there to get out and get stuck, and then someone
Yeah,
light it
yeah.
up.
Or the demons come through the door and lock them in, and there's the end of the
Right.
movie.
And I'm just thinking, this is how it's going to end for one of them at least.
Hmm.
But it didn't quite work that way. Cast and performances, uh, there wasn't a lot of top notch actors and actresses
No,
in this
no.
film.
The acting was kind of, it's a campy '80s scary movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
it wasn't even, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't no what's her name playing. Dang, I can't. Names have just left my brain for some reason. But it wasn't like like Johnny Depp's first movie and
Elm,
Nightmare, and
Elm
like it
Street
wasn't.
with
Huh?
Heather Langenkamp and all
Had the
them.
Langenkamp. Thank you. Like it wasn't even close to that. Like, Judy was honestly, as the leading role, she was probably the worst because they're in the and in being in the crematorium is when I was just like, come on, Judy, you can do better than this. Like, 'cause
But I mean, it
you're
says
in a
here,
place running from demons, and she's just like so, I don't know, nonchalant, or like there's not really any kind of like hesitation or urgency in her voice or anything. She's just, yeah, it
well,
was hilarious.
when it comes to cast and performance, it says Amelia Kincaid as Angela and Linnea
She did
Quigley as
phenomenal
Suzanne stand out for their memorable portrayals.
for sure. And
They're
Roger
over,
was good too.
yeah, but it says their over the top performances add to the campy feel. It helps cement their characters in horror history. So Angela definitely is a place in horror history because she's the lead demon.
100%.
Quigley's performance especially gave her status as a scream queen in the genre, which she
Mhm.
was also in like Night of the Living Dead and or was it
Yeah, because
Return
I
of the
mean,
Living?
if
I'm
you
sorry,
think
Return
about
of
it,
the Living Dead.
yeah, if you think about it, really, I think Suzanne probably had more screen time and makeup than Angela did.
Yeah. And just to give you a quick rundown, Judy was played by Kathy Podwell. Roger was Alvin Alexis. Stooge is Hal Havens or Havens. Helen was Allison Barron. She may not have acted anymore. There's no updated picture of her in here.
Right.
The old man, Harold
Air.
Ayer or Ayer, it's A
I
Y
would say
E
it's
R,
probably air, like
probably
the
Ayer.
air you breathe.
Billy Gallo played Sal, and Karen Erickson played Judy's mother. Lance Fitton was the brother Jay. Uh, Donnie Jeffcoat played Billy. Of course,
Hmm.
I mentioned Suzanne already. Uh,
Right.
the two clerks at the beginning of the movie who are staring at Linnea Quigley's butt because she's bent over, trying to misdirect their attention while the other steals from the store.
Right.
James W. Quinn, clerk number one, and Clark Jarrett, clerk number two. One last person from the party, I believe, was Franny, and she's played by Jill Terashita. So
Yeah.
no names stand out as anybody we know from anything else, really and truly. No names
Yeah.
do.
No. Except for, like I said, scream queen, the
Yeah,
scream queen.
Linnea Quigley,
Yeah.
because she was in a lot of horror things, and I can guarantee you, if I were to click on name my name and go here, the only thing we're going to see is a lot of TV series.
Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much.
So
And like I said, most of them bounced around some horror movies too. So.
yeah, so we won't go deep into that or anything. Reason why this is considered a cult classic, not only does it combine horror and humor and is unafraid to embrace its outrageous side, the effects, the one-liners, the '80s aesthetics have made it a nostalgic favorite for fans. The fact that the
Absolutely.
fans really get into it is really what makes it a cult classic. Without the fans, there's no cult classic.
100%.
They took this thing once it hit VHS and took to it like wildfire. It was one of the go-to movies you would go to if you're having for like if girls are having a sleepover or something, or if you're having a party at your
Hmm.
house on the weekend, your friends got to come over and you were watching horror movies on a Friday night or a Saturday night.
For sure.
especially if it's around Halloween time.
Yeah, I remember the big ones. Excuse me. Good Lord. Uh, Chill out on this vape a little bit, I guess. But yeah, I think this one, the house at the end of the street, and what was it, sorority house massacre or something. I
Right.
remember my cousin watching those three in particular a fair bit. Like you'd go down, we lived next door to one another there for a little while. When I lived in Gray Court, and one of those three movies would be on the TV, like especially if she was hanging out with friends.
Well, I
So
mean,
yeah.
this movie basically, um, like some of the others, like you said, Sorority House Massacre, unique for centering the horror narrative around Halloween,
Mhm.
but without dipping into the slasher territory. So it
Right.
gives it a distinctive spot among Halloween themed horror films. Think of other things too for horror films that are very different. Trick or Treat was not a
Mhm.
slasher based.
Right.
You have
Pumpkinhead.
uh,
Which Pumpkinhead wasn't so much. It wasn't really like, oh, it's Halloween either, though. Pumpkinhead was. It didn't focus on the time of year, I guess you'd say.
right, right, but still, and it's like April Fool's Day horror
Yeah.
movie, not
Right.
around Halloween, more of April Fool's Day, April
Right.
1st. But it's a horror film, and it's not based upon slashers. Now,
Hmm.
Sleepaway Camp had a slasher and it had a killer,
Absolutely.
so we can't really go there. That didn't stand alone on its own like that. They kind of
You got
played off
like
the
you
slasher.
got I think around this time you got what probably Witchboard,
Yeah,
uh uh Warlock. Warlock wasn't a slasher, I don't think.
no, Warlock. It's I don't even know if I would really call it a horror movie, or unless you want to call it like a horror thriller, horror
Yeah.
action, or horror sci-fi.
Yeah.
Kind of more of a sci-fi horror, I think. Kind of like Aliens
Hmm.
was, but without the aliens. It's just based on warlock and witches and stuff.
Exactly.
So
Lawnmower Man. When did Lawnmower Man come out? It seems like that's about right time for Lawnmower Man too. Lawnmower Man, talk about sci-fi, boy.
look it up and see. I'm not sure. I'm gonna give you a couple more points on the podcast here. Um,
Oh, that's
oh,
90,
actually, I'm gonna bring something up to you in just a second. So it was 90.
92. Yeah, Lawnmower Man.
92. Okay, 92. So just a couple discussion points for this podcast. For this episode, real quick on the show. Um, Cultural impact of it, why the movie remains a Halloween favorite, how it contributed to the rise of horror comedy. Because
Hmm.
think about when you think of horror, there wasn't a ton of horror comedy. You had some one-liners from Freddy and such, but you had a few movies that were kind of a horror comedy kind of feel to it. Did those really appeal to you as much as straight up horror and horror gore did? In my opinion, personally, I could have done without the comedy in most of the horrors.
Um, when I think of comedy horror, um, this one doesn't come up on my list really. I think of something like, especially like if we're talking about the '80s, I would think about something like The House, or something that I think is actually trying to be funny.
Hmm.
Um, I think the comedy that came from this movie was just because of the time and the situation and the setting, and you're dealing with teenagers just risen on each other.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I, I liked. I think I got into the comedy horror earlier because it wasn't as scary. It takes the scare. It takes the scary part away from it for a kid. But as Yeah, nah, I'm more. I like gore horror. I like the gore horror. I like all horror. I like the supernatural stuff and stuff like that. But for just good old plain old hack and slash scary movies you know what I mean? Especially if I'm feeling nostalgic. Stuff like Texas Chainsaw, Night of the Demons, all your slasher films. Uh, Creep Show was pretty cool, but Creep Show wasn't. I don't think Creep Show was as much of a gore fest either. So the gore, it's not like I don't sit around and watch the gore fest all the time. So like usually, if I want a good gore fest movie, I'm going to watch one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres just because they're my favorite.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think at that age, I think that the gore fest was cool because I think coming in right on the heels of comedy, and I guess maybe that if I think about it, I guess that yeah, you could consider this a comedy horror because the flat out gore fest stuff that's just outrageous like this there again, it wasn't quite as scary as something like a Freddy Krueger or a Pumpkinhead or a Mike Myers, or to me those were more cerebrally. It was more cerebral in the horror than stuff like this is. This is outrageous and unbelievable. So it's not, you know what I mean?
Where do you rank Angela among killers like Halloween
Among
horror,
horror villains,
your horror villains? Where would you rank Angela in there?
oh, Angela's gonna be in my top 10 probably. Yeah, easily.
I don't
I
think
would
I could.
say I
I don't
would
think I
really.
could throw her into a top five at all. I don't think I could.
Yeah, no, because no, not a top five, not a top five. Because you see, top five straight off the top of my head, you got the you got Freddy, Pinhead, uh, uh, Jason, Mike Myers, Chucky, um, Ghostface. I got to. I don't know. I know that's not '80s, but you got to throw Ghostface in there. The Scream movies were enormous. So yeah,
Well,
she
okay.
might make it into my top 10.
So
No, I'm
let's
gonna have to
say
put her in my top 15 because I would also put Jack from The Shining in there. We're
well,
gonna have
hold
to do a
on.
movie on this one,
Well,
a
hold
show
on,
on this
hold
one
on,
day.
hold on. Let's say we limit it to just 80s horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Shining is the 70s. Scream is the 90s.
Okay, so I take two away. She's in my top 10.
Still in your top 10.
Yeah,
'Cause
for
I'm
sure.
like you. I get the same five you do, starting five.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't, since I wasn't a huge horror fan,
Yeah.
I would probably struggle to pick my next five after that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'd throw
Um,
Maniac Cop in there. I would throw Basket Case in there. I would throw Radu from well, Radu is probably gonna be in my top five, really. If I was to sit down and make a list, Radu would be in my top five. And that's from the subspecies movies that I was talking about earlier.
yeah,
So yeah. Yeah, I could probably throw you a top 15 or 20 out of just the 80s.
horror freak. That's what you are.
Yeah, I got it bad, dude.
What you are. Let me see if I can find a couple of fun things out of here for this, and then we'll start wrapping things up here. Let's see. We got any maybe useful things in here? Not very useful, but let's see. Linnea Quigley had gained notoriety for her portrayal of what they call trash, or maybe her name was Trash. I don't know. In The Return of the Living Dead in '85, she was asked to come in for an audition by the filmmakers who were fans of that movie. She initially rejected the offer, believing that she was too old to convincingly portray a teenager. Her agent insisted she go, and after a couple more requests, she eventually did audition. To her surprise, they cast her on the spot. Um, in a 2014 interview, director Kevin Tenney was talked about filming the infamous lipstick scene with Quigley, and he said that Linnea had been nude modeling long before she had been starring in movies, so she was completely comfortable doing the scene. She read the script, saw that they were what they were going to do, and he sent her over to Steve Johnson that made the cast of her breast, and the rest was history. He said. So I guess if anybody thought there might have been a little uneasiness or discomfort, doing something like that, apparently it was all natural to her.
Right. All
How weird is
natural.
that? Kathy Podwell, who was the main actress, quit her job working as a waitress in the wake of being cast as Judy. I guess she thought she had a long career ahead of her. Surprise!
Surprise, Judy, Judy, Judy.
Since we're pulling some Andy Griffith characters out of thin air tonight. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Golly, Lieutenant Dan.
There's no Lieutenant Dan. Now we did you're bleeding over Forrest Gump in with Gomer Pyle. You're thinking
Sergeant Carter. I'm sorry, Sergeant Carter.
Yes, Sergeant Carter.
My
My
Rolodex.
gosh.
I stopped on the wrong page of my Rolodex.
Oh gosh.
Golly, Sergeant Carter. I had to think about it to do it again.
It says the house used as the main location was eventually demolished and subsequently replaced by a Ralph supermarket. Kathy Podwell said the cast grew very close because they were always together. They were all too afraid to be in their dressing rooms in Hull House or any other parts of the location alone because the building was just too creepy, so they hung out together outside between scenes. Was it a real place? Although he is uncredited. He is uncredited for this. Frank Welker provides the voice for Angela when she is possessed.
Oh, okay.
Now, are you familiar with Frank Welker? I believe you are.
Well, I might be. Not off the top of my head, but I know the name.
Well, Frank Welker is Fred from Scooby Doo. That's just his regular. That's just his regular voice. He also did Megatron and Starscream.
There we go. That's where I know him from. Because Frank and Peter would. That's exactly what it is. Because they've been doing a lot in their older age together.
Yeah, they were doing the whole thing. It's fun listening to a live reading of them doing a Megatron and Optimus
Yeah,
Prime bit.
no doubt. We just watched Transformers 1 tonight, and I will say there toward the end of the movie, Mr. Hemsworth did a wonderful job. Oh,
Um,
just some quick shouts out too that we forgot when we were throwing out our top 10. I'd said something about Leatherface, but I forgot Leatherface. I forgot the thin man from or the tall man from Phantasm. He was amazing. You got to throw in Norman
he
Bates
was
because Psycho 2.
creepy.
He wasn't he creepy, the tall man
Oh,
from Phantasm?
man, that's it. There wasn't much done to him makeup wise. He was just creepy
No,
looking.
he was just like 7 feet tall and weird looking.
Wasn't he also in Poltergeist 2 or 3?
I think
2.
so.
2, I believe.
I think so. But you got to throw in Norman Bates from Psycho 2
Yeah.
because Norman was super crazy. How about the Critters? Remember Critters? Did you ever see
I
Critters?
have seen Critters, yes.
And then I think I got to slide back to my top 5 and throw David from the Lost Boys in. Kiefer Sutherland. He was a good bad guy.
Good bad guy, yes. But not very scary though.
No, I wanted to hang out with him. Shit. I'm gonna jump off the railroad tracks.
Fun note, Angela, Amelia Kincaid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who her aunt is?
Kincaid. Robert Kincaid.
Rue McClanahan.
Rue McClanahan. Okay.
Yeah.
What's
A
the
golden
dude?
girl. A
Oh, I
golden
meant to say
girl.
Thomas Kincaid, the painter of light.
I figured it's what you meant, but I wasn't gonna say anything. I just found it funny that Rue McClanahan, one of the Golden Girls,
Yeah, that's awesome. Rue was Blanche.
she was Blanche. Yeah, I was just surprised when I seen that. So
Yeah, I got to sit around one evening, and let me tell y'all, if y'all love the Golden Girls, there are plenty of hours of YouTube content to watch. Documentaries, docu-series, little clips and stuff, and it is very interesting. The Golden Girls led some. Those ladies are pretty amazing. Like they led some pretty wild, amazing lives.
yeah,
Shout out to the Golden Girls.
I've always wondered something. Now I saw this clip on YouTube, and I just want to get this out real quick, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. But they're sitting at the kitchen table, like they do sometimes toward the end of their episodes, and they're
Mhm.
talking about something bad that had happened, and Rose starts talking about nothing bad's happened since like something to do with those small miniature things like fleas, but they're not fleas or something else, I guess.
Mhm.
And so the other two start playing off of it, and it announces it as a blooper reel or something like that, like them just carrying on. But one of my friends said, "No, it's actually how it happened in the series in the episode." And I haven't
Oh,
found it yet for sure. And
probably,
it's just
probably.
Rose being silly and stupid about something that happened in where she's from in St. Olaf,
Yeah.
and nothing. They say, is that something like a flea circus? And she says, yeah, but they're just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
That's like little fish
Oh
or
my God, I
something.
know which one you're talking about. Yes, it was unscripted. It was just her being in character, just talking trash. Oh my gosh. About the flea circus. I know the exact scene you're talking about. And I
And
can't
Blanche was like, did they shoot one out of a cannon? She goes, well, only once. After that, the rest of them wouldn't go for it no more.
Yeah,
You know,
yes,
and the
yeah.
reason why I thought it was, they had said it was, just behind the scenes blooper or whatever. It
Mhm.
looks like Reuben Flanahan and what is Dorothy's B. Arthur.
B.
It,
Arthur.
it it looked like they were just about to die laughing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that could have been legit a part of the show with them laughing like they were and carrying on.
They
But
did that a
anyway,
lot on the show though. They did that quite a bit.
that's Golden Girls is a far cry from Night of the Demons. But I hope you guys did like the episode today, and we'll go watch Night of the Demons. Give it a chance. let us know. Drop us
Especially
an
if you're a
email
horror, if
or
you're a horror fan at all, you're gonna love it. You'll
right.
appreciate it,
You're right. You can't say you're a true horror fan without seeing some of these old classics. So make sure
no
you give it a
doubt.
look see there. Let us know on social media. Let us know in email, however you want to do it. You can find us at Facebook. You can find us on Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, like so many people have done quite a few in the past now. And I hope
RetroLifeForYou.com.
more of you keep doing it for sure. But retrolifeforyou at gmail.com, as you just said, email us there and let us know what you think about the movie and what your favorite parts were and all that good stuff. Um, if you are someone who does not get to listen to your podcast in more traditional formats like on iTunes and Spotify, where you'll find this as well as anywhere else where they're located, you can go to the web browser at www.retrolife, the number four, letter u.com, and you can listen to us straight out the web browser. Which, Travis, I have noticed a trend lately. A lot of our
Mhm.
shows are being listened to online now
I
from
like
there,
that. I
which is
like that.
cool. I like that as well. I think it's great. You should be able to go to the show notes and see most of the videos as well too. I'm still
Mhm.
uploading as we speak. Matter of fact, in the background in one of my browser tabs now, I got Willow uploading from one of our past episodes, and
Willa.
that's gonna be going up. So uh, definitely tell everybody about the YouTube page. I'm really looking to get some more people to follow on the YouTube page. We're at 216 right now, I believe.
Mhm.
So it's not a huge number. It's
Mhm.
not like it's 20 or 30 either. So
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
steadily growing a little bit at a time. But get the word out there for people who like to watch their podcast as well. Want to have a good time with this and just
For
follow
sure.
follow us on there, like us, follow us, hit that little bell, let you know when something new comes out.
Yeah, and until
And
we get like a third of Joe Rogan's followers, all listeners are welcome to contact and if you want a guest spot on a show one night.
that's actually not out of the question. If there's a movie we haven't done that you would like to talk about, that's actually
Absolutely.
not too far out of the question. And I will also say, I am looking to do extra content for the YouTube channel.
Mhm.
Travis here works during the week, so it's kind of hard for him.
Weekends
Uh,
too this week.
well, Travis works a lot, so it's kind of hard for me to
Dude,
get him on extra content. So I've got a couple
I do.
people who are working towards some things with me. But if you want to do anything as simple as send me at retrolifeforyou at gmail.com a short video of yourself talking about, say, one of your favorite um, retro childhood memories or something, whether it's sitting at the house on Saturday morning with a bowl of cereal watching your cartoons, you and your friends rushing home from school to catch the evening cartoons with He-Man and G.I. Joe and Voltron and
Oh yeah.
such,
So the
uh,
cats.
riding your bikes all across town, whatever it is you did that you loved, toys that you had, anything you want to give us a little quick thing on, send it our way, and I'll get a few
Maybe
of them put
making
together.
if your sister had the daggum easy bake oven and you got lucky enough to get the creepy crawlers.
But yeah, no, send us some stuff like that, and we'll put it up on our YouTube page. I'll get a few together at one time, make a little short 15-minute video or less out of it, and put it up there. And the more we get, the more fun it'll be for everybody. We can all talk about different things that happen, and maybe some of us can relate to it or something. And before you know it, we'll have a nice
Community.
little community started, and it'll be real fun. So, but yeah, as far as the extra content goes, I'm looking to do some stuff with music from the time frame from 70s, 80s, 90s, because that's what the retro thing is for us. We just do 80s movies on this, but the YouTube is 70s, 80s, and 90s. So you
Mhm.
got TV series, you got toys, you got collectibles, you got music, fads at the time. You know, anything
Yeah.
that you think you might enjoy doing, reach out to me and let me know, and we'll see if we can work some stuff out. I'm off usually, and throughout the evenings during the week, I can do quick sessions with you or something, knock some things out, and we'll go from there. But let us know what you're interested in, what you want to do. And Travis, I'm just wondering what you got on your mind this week to end the show with.
Well, I noticed something when we were watching this movie, and it made me notice a trend
Mm-hmm.
in like demon movies, or anytime you
Demon,
see like a demon on a movie, new or
yes,
old, they're always kind of fat.
fat demons,
Yeah, like they got pot bellies at the very least. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
most of them. Yeah.
yeah.
I figure that's because they hate exorcising.
Oh